Hi everybody, Sonia Rollins. I'm here with Tim Broadrick, who's the Superintendent of Shawsheen Tech, which is formerly Shawsheen.
We are the Shawsheen Valley Regional Vocational Technical School District, but Shawsheen Tech or Shawsheen
Right.
Technical High School
Better known.
works
Thank
just
you
fine.
so much for joining us, Tim. It's funny because we try to gather a lot of different information for Back Talk. We talk about the business community, we talk about the community, and we can't leave out the element of talking about schools, both Burlington Public Schools, of course, and then Shawsheen, which is a huge part of Burlington and its surrounding communities. So give us a little bit about that, about how Shawsheen falls within the range of Burlington schools.
Sure. So the Shawsheen Technical District serves 5 communities, including Burlington, also Billerica, Tewksbury, Bedford, and Wilmington. And we really are a part of the business community as much as we're a part of the public education system in this region. We partner with about 300 small businesses in the district, and our juniors at the end of their junior year and all of our seniors qualify to go to work in co-op jobs. Cooperative education is a huge part of what we do. Right now, 72% of our seniors who will graduate here in the next week or so have had co-op jobs. They've had some kind of early work experience related to their technical trade studies or their vocational studies, and also supported by their teachers. So when the students come back from work, they come to school, they see their teachers, and they get to talk about what they've experienced, how they've applied what they've been learning for the previous 3 years at Shawsheen Tech, and what that's meaning to them in the workplace.
It's unbelievable because a few years back I was involved with the Grandview Farm, those of you who know me, near and dear to my heart, but Shawsheen was very much integral even in some of the community projects. The students that you had were working in conjunction with the town and with the contractors and doing some work with Grandview. So they really do get very, a hands-on feeling and tie themselves in with community and business.
Yes, and we continue to do those things. So in addition to some construction projects and other community involvement in the past, this year we've been working with the Bedford Housing Authority to build a building on one of their campuses. We did some renovation work in the town of Tewksbury's public works facility last year. For the next couple of years, our students, underclass students and teachers will be building some buildings on our campus. We often partner with Habitat for Humanity. I think we have a renovation with Habitat coming up next year. So yes, in addition to our older students, our seniors and end-of-year juniors who go out to work for private employers on co-op, our younger students, our sophomores and juniors, after they've covered the fundamentals with their teachers in their vocational and technical programs, they go out to work in the communities too.
So I had said this to you before, I want to say this for the viewing audience. Let's talk about this, vocational schools. What people thought vocational schools were once upon a time, or what the stigma, I'll just go ahead and say it, what the stigma of a vocational school was, versus what a vocational school looks like today and the need for it.
Sure, and what vocational education looks like in Massachusetts is an important distinction too. I grew up in New Hampshire where there's a vocational center program. It happens in Maine, it happens in Vermont, and these are places where students attend their local high schools and then spend the middle part of their day on a bus and only get an hour and a half or 2 hours of vocational education during that school day. Here in Massachusetts, we have a very different system. Originated in the 1960s, where we have these regional vocational technical schools. It has allowed the Commonwealth to build tremendous economies of scale. So at Shawsheen Tech, we have a machine shop, for example, with $800,000 or $900,000 worth of machining equipment. And we're able to do that by pooling the resources of our 5-member communities so that each high school doesn't have to try to have enough equipment to have a program like that themselves. As far as the stigma goes, I think that vocational and technical education has changed so much, particularly in the last decade, because the economy has changed. It's much harder for students, particularly middle-class students in the United States, to find a place in the economy. We used to all dream that if we worked hard and played by the rules, we'd be better off than our parents. Or maybe our parents used to dream that we could do those things and have a better life than they did. But data shows us that although that was true for American students born in the 1940s and 50s, or like me in the 60s, it's become less and less true over time. In fact, an American student born in the 1980s has a less than 50% chance of being as economically well off as his or her parents.
Now that's staggering because that's not what people perceive, right?
It's not, and it used to be the case. What we perceive used to be true, that most middle-class Americans would be better off than their parents. But there's a staggering trend line in the downward direction, and if it has continued, then our students now, some of whom were born after 2000, believe it or not, are facing a much more uncertain economic future than their parents did. And then there's another misconception about education and the economy that I think compounds this problem, and that's this idea that four-year college is a ticket to economic success.
Right.
It's not necessarily the case. In the economy of the next 10 years, again, other research from the Bureau of Labor Statistics tells us that about 1/3 of jobs in the American economy will require a four-year degree. But these days, almost 70% of our high school graduates are enrolling in colleges. So it's kind of a zero-sum game. The numbers indicate that there won't be appropriate employment for all of those college-educated citizens if they complete their college educations.
And that's interesting, if they complete it,
If.
right? Now, that doesn't take away that obviously, and I want to make sure I say this, if you go to Shawsheen Tech, you have that option. You're educated similar to as you're educated in any high school, you happen to also have a trade.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, Sonia, because it's absolutely true.
Right.
Shawsheen Tech students can enroll in an academic curriculum that meets the Mass Core requirements, which are
Right.
all the same requirements that students in any other high school in the Commonwealth have to meet in order to be admitted to a four-year university. In fact, roughly 1/3 of Shawsheen Tech graduates enroll in four-year colleges.
Right.
There is a difference, and when we're most successful, this difference comes into play. Many of our students who go on to four-year colleges pursue fields related to their courses of study at Shawsheen Tech. So, for example, many of our health assisting, medical assisting, or dental assisting students will go on and enroll in bachelor's degree programs in nursing or biology
Right.
or some kind of medical laboratory science. We also find, and it's hard to get really great data about this, but we do our best to collect our own, that those students appear to be more likely to finish those degrees than the typical American student who enrolls in a four-year college without necessarily having that link to prior study.
Because they have some of that background experience, or they've been what's the right word, exposed to it. Is that the right
Absolutely.
word
In
to
fact,
say?
even better than that, because so many of our students have had co-op jobs, they've actually worked in the field.
Yeah.
And we've got a number of stories of students who have gone out on co-op and found out not what they did want to do, but what they didn't. And think about how much money that student can save going on to college and not studying that thing
Right.
that he or she has learned isn't the right thing.
Right. All right, we're going to hold on that. We are going to take a break. As you know, the Chamber is very proud of having charitable partnerships. This month's charitable partnership highlight is the American Cancer Society Relay for Life. Relay for Life's coming up June 10th at Burlington High. The concept, of course, is Cancer Never Sleeps. I'm here to tell you that the volunteers that work that and work all year long to make this happen for you don't sleep either. So we'll be right back after this. Relay for Life.
Like a small boat on the ocean.
The Relay for Life of Burlington is one of Burlington's largest fundraising events. It brings together families, friends, students, and community members to make a difference in the fight against cancer.
Relay for Life of Burlington is a team-based event, and each team consists of 6 to 15 members who take turns walking around a track overnight for 12 hours to signify that cancer never sleeps. Relay is an event to honor cancer survivors, remember loved ones lost, and to fight back against cancer.
Take back my life song, prove I'm alright song. My power's
It's a great piece. Ooh, all right, I got caught saying it was a great piece, but it is a great piece. Relay for Life, June 10th, Burlington High School. It is not too late to be involved. If you do not want to walk the track all night, come down, show your support, make a donation. It is really worthwhile. I'm here with Tim Broadrick, who is our superintendent for Shawsheen Tech. I want to make sure I say this, and then we'll keep talking about it. There's nothing wrong with the traditional high school environment. Just like there's nothing wrong with the vocational environment. Every student finds their niche. Is that it? Is
I
that the
hope
right
so.
way to say it?
I like to say that in this district, our 5-town district, students are fortunate that there are 6 great high schools.
Yes.
So provided we help each student find that perfect environment, all the appropriate opportunities are here.
Yeah, you know, Tim, here's the thing that I find really interesting. The model, philosophically, you know, and again, the stigma, you know, when you were growing up, when I was growing up, it was you went to a four-year school and then you moved on to find college. That's still the model I think that people strive for. But I think what we're missing is that the trades are very important to the economy.
Right.
Like, really important to the economy.
Well, and one of the reasons we've funneled so many American students to four-year college programs over the years is because we've used average income data
Yes.
to justify the idea that college graduates are going to be economically better off than high school graduates, or, and this is a really important group, those with some post-secondary education short of a bachelor's degree. And that's where there's a huge opportunity in trades, like you mentioned, particularly with certificate and associate's degree programs. Actually, in more technical areas, folks with those levels of education tend to have much higher earnings, particularly than bachelor's degree holders in the lower 50%
Interesting.
of the range of earnings, right, for those who have bachelors. So if you look inside the data a little bit, you know, plumbers, electricians do pretty well.
Yeah.
And we have a plumbing program at Shawsheen Tech, we have an electrical program at Shawsheen Tech, but machinists do extraordinarily well in the 21st century economy. Robotics engineers and electronics technicians do extraordinarily well. And I just said engineer and then technician in the same sentence, and there's a difference. One of those things requires a four-year degree. Another, though, can be accomplished with a two-year program or a one-year certificate program. And the earning potential is still there.
Yeah.
For the right student who wants to pursue that kind of a career, there are huge opportunities, particularly in those areas, in advanced, what we like to call in Massachusetts these days, advanced manufacturing.
Right.
It's really design and manufacturing of medical devices, of specialty products that can't be outsourced overseas, which it seems there are more and more these days. Things that require very tight manufacturing tolerances, again, that can't be outsourced overseas. Those things are happening here in the United States and here in Massachusetts.
So what do you say to the parents of students who are in the middle school age right now, who are trying to decide, you know, Shawsheen does a pretty good job of going out to the schools and talking about it, right? And again, because the model is the traditional high school, they then have this alternate choice that goes out to them in all the communities. We'll speak to Burlington right now. You know, and what do you say to parents who don't really know what their child is focusing on, and then that kid comes home and says, well, maybe I can go to Shawsheen, but that's the parent, for lack of a better term, if you're not necessarily involved, the parent's hearing of it. How does a parent make that decision, or what do they do?
Well, where I usually start is when I was 13 years old and Ted Bliss in Warner, New Hampshire gave me my first job on his farm.
Yeah.
I didn't need a college degree. I didn't even have to think that much, but I had to show up on time and I had to work hard all day. And I learned from Ted Bliss that when I didn't show up on time and work hard all day, that was a problem.
Right.
So I learned the fundamental essential skills of the workplace when I was young.
Right.
Most of our kids today don't learn those lessons at 13, 14, 15 years
Correct.
old because they don't have jobs anymore.
Yeah.
Youth employment right now in the United States is at its lowest level since World War II.
Yeah.
So when we get kids at Shawsheen Tech, most of them hadn't had a job. When I graduated from college, which I did right after high school, I went to school, I got a four-year degree, I now have a master's degree. I became employable, not because of my technical expertise when I was 22 or 23 years old, but because of my work ethic.
Yeah.
Because of my ability and willingness to learn. The fact that I took direction reasonably well and was willing to stay a little late and do a little extra to try to be successful. Those are workplace skills. Those are employability skills, and we learn those at our first jobs, not at our last jobs.
Yeah.
So what I say to parents is, we teach students at Shawsheen Tech, in addition to Mass Core and all of the things they need to go on and get into college if that's what they want to do, we teach them about the world of work. We teach them how to work. You know, our construction cluster teachers teach students day-to-day survival on the job site, which is incredibly important in those trades, but also in other workplaces that students may work in later in life. So that's where we start, and then we talk about all of the opportunities that are available after graduating from Shawsheen Tech.
So there's a lot of that. I mean, again, I think it's important for parents or the students themselves to know what they're hoping for, right? I mean, you got to know what you're hoping for, and then you decide which model of which high school works for you. But the core is the core.
The core is the core.
Education-wise.
And I think one of the questions people often have about regional vocational schools in Massachusetts, and this is a very fair question, is it reasonable to ask a 14-year-old 8th grader,
Right.
or the next year a 14 or 15-year-old 9th grader, to choose a field that he or she is then ostensibly going to work in for the rest of his or her life?
Right.
And my answer to that is pretty simple. I've worked in a number of different fields. I'm on my 3rd career, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
And most of us, by the time we get to our 40s and 50s, are on at least a 3rd career. And for our kids, research indicates it might be 5th or 6th
Yeah.
by the time they're 40 and 50 years old. But again, those employability skills, those fundamental skills in the workplace that lead to success, they don't really change. Those are transferable skills. So what I say to the question, can we really ask a 14 or 15-year-old to choose cosmetology or machining or graphic arts? I say those are vehicles. They're vehicles for learning, just like biology in any high school is a vehicle for learning, because most of us don't use biology a lot
No.
in our adult lives.
Thank God for me, by
I
the
haven't
way.
used
Yeah.
calculus personally in
Right.
a very, very long time.
Because I'd be in trouble.
And
Yeah.
I couldn't, right?
Yeah.
But I took the class once. It was a vehicle for developing learning and aptitudes and skills in me that I now apply to other situations and environments in my life.
Yeah.
So that's how I ask parents to think about a vocational technical high school education.
So let me ask you this: if you wanted to say the thing you're most proud of, if when you talk Shawsheen Tech, what's the thing you're most proud of?
I honestly think we have the most passionate, dedicated group of teachers that I could imagine in a 9 through 12 high school. And I think it goes back to our mission, the fact that the school is a little unique, and we are developing specific skills in students that we know will lead to a better life for so many of them. People who work at Shawsheen Tech really care. Now, the great thing about this is it creates an effect on our students.
Sure.
So we have a community over there.
Nice.
People really work hard and believe in a common purpose at Shawsheen Tech. And I think I can't take the credit for having developed it, but I'm trying to nurture it and continue to maintain it. But I think that's the thing we should all be the most proud of
Right.
over at Shawsheen.
That's fantastic. And extracurricular activities, before we take a break, all of the same extracurricular activities are available to students who go to Shawsheen
Yes.
as who go to the traditional high schools.
We have a football team and an ice hockey team, and our girls lacrosse team just won the state vocational championship yesterday.
Congratulations.
We have brand new artificial turf, football and baseball fields with lights. We have state-of-the-art athletic facilities, and we do all the same things that you would expect any high school to do.
Great. Okay. We are going to take a break again. You are going to see upcoming events for the BACC. In addition to that, Tim is here for our first foodie segment. So we are heading to Chops so that you can take a look at Terry and the handmade tater tots she makes, and we'll be right back after you see that. So we're inside the kitchen with Terry now. Terry shared with us that because her hands are so small, she actually figured out that a sushi roller works perfect to make these handmade tater tots that she does. Makes them by hand, past 30 years, and when you order them, they are brought in to the fryer fresh. They are deep fried to order for each individual party. They stay in the fryer about 3 to 4 minutes. Terry was good enough to do this with us. Usually there is another sous chef who's taking care of that. But once they do that, they let them dry up, and then they are put out for final finishing. Of course, a side of ketchup, because what's a tater tot without ketchup? And some tater tots are put in, and they are sent out to the guest. Right, this is Stefano Zimmi, the executive chef of the Boston Burlington Marriott's Chops. We have been raving about Terry and about her tater tots forever, Stefano, I have to tell you. But the other great thing, obviously, is all the other things that the restaurant does.
Yep.
So I asked her, and I'm going to ask you, what's your favorite thing in the restaurant?
Like I told you earlier,
Yes.
I'm very partial to fish. I mean, I'm a big seafood lover. Our new menu focuses on a lot of local, sustainable fish, from Atlantic cod to fresh Atlantic halibut that's being caught, within days of the way it's hitting our restaurant. And then obviously our steaks is a big part of our program here, so we do a lot of antibiotic-free, all-natural program. From Platinum Farms in Maine to Brant Farms, everything is coming in super fresh and I think that's a big reason why people come here, because of the natural flavor of the steak. Really showcases the meat in general, and people start to understand like, wow, this is what really excellent beef should be tasting like. So that's a big part of our program here, is getting in lots of fresh produce, fresh seafood, excellent meat that people can enjoy.
Yeah, I say this a lot, but I really mean it. For those of us that live in Burlington and work around Burlington, sometimes up until when Chops came, you'd go by the Marriott, you wouldn't really let you go in to eat at the Marriott. But if you know about Chops, then it becomes a whole different ballgame, because it's as good, if not better, as everything else outside.
Yeah, we want to be a little bit different than the steakhouses. I mean, we have a lot of competition, so we want to set ourselves apart a little bit, and changing the menus frequently. We just launched our new spring-summer menu, and that's been getting a lot of rave reviews. Again, looking again into the summer, started going into local farm stands is my next thing. Getting all the local vegetables from Barrel Farm in Concord is something I've been trying to work on, and trying to hit a lot of the small little farms around the area to bring that produce in. Being in Burlington, a lot of it has to go, okay, I'll go pick up the produce and bring it in, which is okay, because I get to pick what I want, and I like that part too. So those are some new kind of things, and then the bar menu is something we've also been working on and changing. Obviously, Mother's Day is right around the corner, so that menu is ready to roll. We had a really good Easter. We talked about Boston Bakes for breast cancer. We're doing our desserts for that, which all the proceeds go to Boston Bakes. And then all the tasting menus we've been doing. So, trying to really stay on the current trend is going to keep us on that level.
Absolutely. So thank you very much.
Thank
for
you. I
having us in
appreciate
your
it. Thanks for
kitchen.
coming
We
in.
appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
Take care.
Look at, I talk about these things so much, you would think there was something like super special, but they are super special. Terry makes these little things by hand. She went away for 2 weeks, and they had to have a whole meeting about what they were going to do, because this woman has been making these things for 30 years. So for 2 weeks, they had to figure out what they were going to do while she was gone.
Wow.
Tater tots and chops. You should really go do that. The rest of the food there is fantastic. Speaking of food, there is a restaurant I hear that the students run.
Yes, the Ram's Head Dining Room, open generally when school is in session, Tuesdays through Fridays, and it's open to the public. I think for 2 lunch seatings, you can call and make a reservation. And the nice thing about the Ram's Head restaurant at Shawsheen Tech is it is entirely run by the students. So we have students in our culinary arts program who are in the kitchen preparing the food, but also in the front of house, taking the reservations and seating people when they arrive and waiting tables and learning everything about how to operate a restaurant, including a point of sale system and learning how to use the computer and handle cash and all that kind of thing.
It's really unbelievable. See, now, and I didn't know that, and look how close I am to it. Now I'm going to be eating there all the time, but
We're open
going
to the public.
Yeah, we're going to have to come and do a little foodie segment there. So they do it during the school year.
They do. They're open during the school year and closed in the summer. And if you are going to go, call ahead, find out when they're making the lamb shank.
Really?
The Shawsheen Tech lamb shank could be served in any restaurant in Burlington or Bedford. It's terrific.
Really? That's unreal. Now, there's a baking division too, right? Is that
Yes.
separate?
So the same students in culinary arts have a bakery, so they rotate to get experience in the kitchen and in the front of the house. And in the bakery, they make a nice Italian Zeppoli donut, which is also terrific. And next year, we have 24 11th graders becoming seniors, and I imagine that the majority of those students will be working at co-op jobs in Burlington, Bedford, and the other communities in the district. Those students, between their sophomore and junior years, have over 1,000 hours of training in this entire culinary arts program, from the bakery back through the restaurant and the kitchen. And they're ready. They're ready to go to work and hopefully contribute something to the economy, as well as put a few dollars in their own pockets. All of our co-op students are paid, which is great for our kids, whether they're getting ready to go on to college or go on to start their careers.
It's unbelievable. That's another thing probably that when people think of the vocational schools, they don't really probably think of that portion of it, right? You tend to think trades.
Yep.
That's what we thought when we were growing up, that if you went to Voc, you went for a trade.
Sure.
But there's really all of these other components of it.
Yeah, we have 22 vocational and technical programs, from the traditional construction trades through the life sciences that I mentioned, health assisting, dental assisting, medical assisting, through machining and advanced manufacturing, which I mentioned, culinary arts, cosmetology, of course, a traditional vocational technical school,
Right.
Offering, and also programs in computer programming and computer engineering, in graphic arts, in design and visual communications, kind of commercial art and art for the marketplace.
Yeah.
business technology and marketing. I think I've covered everything.
And you've
at
done a
some point
pretty
in this
good job,
conversation.
right? That's fantastic. Tim Broadrick, Superintendent of Shawsheen, thank you for being with us. I want to thank you all for joining us. Thank you to Boston Burlington Marriott and Chops for letting us into the kitchen. Again, if you have not tried the tater tots, you should. Stay tuned for going to Shawsheen. We will find out what day they're making lamb shanks, and we'll bring you that. Katie and I are up for the task of tasting everything in and around Burlington. You saw in the upcoming events, Taste of Burlington is coming. Mark your calendar, September 11th. It's the 10-year anniversary, and you won't want to miss it. For BACC Talk, I'm Sonia Rollins.